You're listening to Brandon Sports Talk, interviewing professional athletes and Paralympians and Olympians. And now for your professional athlete interview and your host, Brandon P. Welcome back to Britain Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Great Britain Olympian alpine skier Chemmy Alcott. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in the sport of alpine skiing?
So I can't remember a time where my family hasn't been involved with alpine ski. It was quite strange because I live in London and we don't have any mountains. I've got a few dry ski slopes. I'm actually coaching on one tonight. And for your listeners who don't understand the concept of that, it's kind of like skiing on plastic hairbrushes. So we have fake snow, and then we can set gates, and you can make it kind of racer led. But it's what they do in climates which don't have big mountains and don't have snow. But my father was a rugby player, and my mother was a swimmer. So I always say genetically, I got his glutes and her lungs, and I was made to be this mountain goat. But if I'm honest, I'm the youngest of a big family. And by the time I was born, my eldest brother, he was already skiing really fast at 8 years old, and he was talent spotted by the French ski school. And they were like, this kid could be fast. So I was born into a racing family already, and I was the youngest. And I think when you're the youngest and you're the only girl, you have this kind of fire in your belly and this determination, and I'd say maybe obsession even, that I wanted to be faster than my brothers. And so I had a very good passion early on for the sport.
What was that like coming from a family that was very active and playing sports?
I think it was incredible actually, because there's a huge amount of psychological support that your family can give you when they understand what sport is. The thing about sport which excites us, which makes us sit on the edge of the seat, is that it's so unpredictable and there are massive highs and lows. It's basically a roller coaster. And so having parents who really understand that, and a sport like skiing, where you're falling over, whether you're a beginner or whether you're a pro, it's always the same. People are always falling over. So there's always massive mental highs and lows that you go through. So to have parents who understood that from an athletic point of background was really helpful, because I did start getting injured quite early on. I mean, I cracked my humerus just after winning the Children's Olympics at 11 years old. And it was really amazing that my parents supported me through that, and they just kept my focus on the long-term goal. So I think having a background of athletes in the family was very great. I think it's growing up competing in an individual sport when you finally become something bigger than yourself, and you become something where you're representing your country, and you've got the Union Jack on you, and you're racing under that flag with other people. It just brings so much enjoyment, but more than that, it brings you pride. And I think with sports that are individual based, it is like the epitome of what you can achieve representing your country, going to big events. And it's not just about how you ski, it's about how you carry yourself, it's about how you come back from disappointment. Everything reflects on where you come from, and that that's in your heart, really.
What was that preparation like, preparing for your first Olympic Games, going to Salt Lake in 2002?
I mean, I was really, really very young. I just finished school, and I had these big goals, big aims. And I remember being so excited to be racing next to my heroes and my peers. And I was massively overexcited in Salt Lake. I mean, this was it. This was big time. And I was there. All my family were there cheering me on. And I was a rookie, definitely a rookie. And I was quite inexperienced, but I loved it. I mean, the vibe of the Olympics, everyone always says, treat the Olympics like every other race, but it's never like any other race. You can't falsify that kind of energy and the electricity that's around, and the fact that you've worked 4 years for this one moment. And so that was just me, like a Bambi in the headlights, absorbing everything and all of that excitement.
As you talked about you being young when you competed for the first time, what was that like, competing so young and seeing these athletes that were way older than you competing?
I think, racing alongside athletes who are really experienced, it gave you that kind of longevity that alpine skiing has. There were athletes there who were winning races at 18, 19 years old, but then they were also competing against female athletes who are over 30, women who'd had so many experiences in life, but still, just a hundredth behind. So I think age in our sport is kind of irrelevant. Everyone peaks at different levels. And I knew from Britain, because I didn't have the volume on snow like the others, like the Austrians and even the Americans who've been skiing since day one, that I would peak later. So actually going to my first Olympics at 19, it gave me that like insight of, okay, I know what to do in 4 years. I know that I've got another 4, 8, 12 maybe years ahead of me. And this is my plan. And it gives you that inspiration to push yourself, but also to just keep being hungry.
When you were in Salt Lake, what was that feeling like going down that slope at the Olympic Games for the first time?
Well, I think the speed events were first, and we were in Snow Basin, and the downhill was like nothing I'd ever raced before. I didn't like airtime. And I think there were probably about 8 jumps on the way down. And I remember inspecting, going, "Oh my God, we're going to be flying again here. Oh God, we're flying again." And I just remember being insanely nervous and having to like harness that fear and try and turn that fear into positivity. But it took me a few runs. I was a bit too respectful of the hill, and then in the combined, I think I came 14th, and that was massive for me. So really great result. And that kind of was the benchmark going forward for the other Olympics. But it made me realize that fear also can be your friend. I think I'm now in a space, having retired 10 years ago, where I speak a lot about normalizing fear for athletes, for anyone, for individuals in life. I'm actually writing a book on it, and I have a very healthy relationship with fear, because I think it's okay to be scared. And I remember that first Olympics in Salt Lake City, I was really scared.
Of course, at your first Olympics, what was that feeling like putting on that Olympic gear for the first time in Salt Lake?
I mean, you're just brimming with pride. You're brimming because you're not racing for you anymore. You're part of something bigger. You're racing for your country. You're representing your country. It was incredible. Actually, Salt Lake City, I didn't stay in the Olympic accommodation because all the events were in different venues. So we stayed in Ogden. And I remember Ogden in Salt Lake was used for the curling, and Britain won the curling, and it was a massive excitement. I remember going down to see that match, and that was massive for me because it made me realize, I'd been in a sport where I was obsessed with being an alpine skier, but I was at an event which is with multidiscipline event with hugely different sports that I had no clue of, and just being part of seeing a gold medal being won by Rona, and this, we call it the Magic Stone, and the Golden Stone, was amazing. And then taking that excitement and trying to put it into my own performance.
How was that experience like, as you said, getting to see other competitions that Great Britain had during that time?
Yeah, like I said, it harnesses and it kind of enforces the fact that you're part of a bigger team, and that you can take energy from others' performances and pull that energy into your own. And also you see the other side of sport. You see other people being disappointed. You realize you're not alone. Whatever you feel at the end of your competition, other athletes representing your country will be feeling that too.
What was that feeling like for you making your second Olympic Games in 2006?
So Turin was huge for me because it was a turning point in finding my growth mindset. Before Turin, I'd struggled a little bit with having so much potential, but not being able to deliver on a race day. I had a massive fear of failure because a lot of people were investing in my career at that point, and I didn't want to let anyone down. So I had actually started to choose to perform at 80%, and I kept 20% in my back pocket to self-validate why I wasn't winning. And then I got to Turin, and I remember the weather for the downhill day was really poor, and we were at the start, and the race kept being delayed, and all of the athletes' fear was really palpable around everyone. And I remember my coach saying to me, "Today, Chemmy, you've got the choice. You can choose to be fast, or you can choose to be scared." And I looked around and I saw these athletes who were definitely being debilitated and frozen with fear. And I was like, right, I'm going to choose to rise to this. Like, I'm going to choose the next 2 minutes of my life. I'm going to really perform my best. And I came 11th in Turin, which was massive because I was ranked around 100 in the world at the time. But actually, for a lot of that Olympic downhill, I was in a medal position. I made a mistake at the bottom bit, but I look back and I wasn't ready to be an Olympic medalist then. I mean, obviously afterwards in hindsight, I'd love to have won any Olympic medal. So I started getting quite hurt after that result. But that was the moment where I skied free without any pressure, any expectation, like just charged, and that resulted in a really good performance for me.
What was that experience like, taking your first experience in the Olympics over to when you made it for the second time?
I think you can never underestimate the power of the energy around the Olympics. So to go back and not be a rookie and to know how it feels, and you're just much more comfortable. You know what to expect. It's a pretty big deal making the Olympics because not many people make it. There's a really challenging criteria, and each country has their own criteria as well. So it's such an honor to be there. And I think after you've made your first one, the pressure's kind of off. You're like, right, I am an Olympian. Now I'm here because I want to be here. I deserve to be here, and I've worked really hard for it.
What was that like preparing for Vancouver in 2010?
I mean, 2010, my third Olympics was really interesting actually because the politics really affected my preparation. Our federation went bankrupt beforehand, and you have to have a federation in order to be able to participate in the Olympic Games. So we were bailed out, and we had mystery donations to get us to the Olympics, and we made this temporary federation to get us there. But there was a lot of pressure. That was probably the most challenging Olympics I felt, because I knew that if I didn't perform, then the legacy and the future of British skiing would struggle financially to get sponsors in, and I couldn't handle it, if I'm honest. I mentally really struggled up in Whistler for the Vancouver Games, and yeah, I didn't do my best. I couldn't. I was too much like pressing on me, and too much expectation, and but not in a positive, supportive way, in a kind of panicked way. And so I did struggle there, which is a shame because I love Whistler and I love Vancouver. But for me, that wasn't the time where I could perform to best of my ability.
What was that experience like, getting to go down the slopes in Vancouver, as you said that was your favorite?
Oh, it's just, I was really excited to race in Canada because I've always had really good support racing in Canada, and Lake Louise, actually where I had one of my crashes, one of my favorite hills. So I knew going to Canada, we'd have, a bit of a fan club in the finish. We'd have cheers. So I was excited to race there. The track was super high intense with loads of undulating terrain and a big jump at the bottom. And I was really excited for that. And I guess that compounds the disappointment I felt when I didn't perform to my best as well, because I loved the track and I didn't feel like I could ski my best.
Leading into Sochi in 2014, what was that experience like, going to Sochi and competing there?
So Sochi, I broke my leg 3 times in the 4 years preceding that. So I had a very challenging preparation. I say our preparation starts in skiing years before the Olympics, and because you have to maintain performance in a high level every weekend during the winter, so your start number is still competitive to give yourself that chance at the Olympics. You can't, like other sports, have a year off, because you've got to keep that world ranking high. And I'd really battled. I mean, I broke my leg in 2010 in Lake Louise, a really bad break. It took me almost 2 years to come back from that, and then I rebroke it. So it was a really challenging time. It was a kind of a fun time as well, though, because I finally realized that I didn't want to race on my own with my own program anymore. So I joined the Canadian team for 2 years, still racing for Britain, but I paid into their team. And then I did the same for the last 2 years of my life with the Norwegian team. So that was really fun to finally have teammates. And I think without them, I wouldn't have been able to come back from those leg breaks. But making Sochi was a relief. I had one race in a World Cup in Cortina, which is my favorite track of all time, actually, to qualify. And I have to say, I got lucky. You don't often say you get lucky in sport, but I had a backwind that really helped push me. And the 2 girls aside of me, bid numbers were really fast, but they both came out because of the backwind. And I fought. And I came down. And I remember being ecstatic because I'd made the cut to get to my last Olympics. And then Sochi was, I think I allowed myself to enjoy Sochi, because by that point my expectations to win, I was a bit more realistic because of the tough preparation I'd had in those 4 years. So I went there just to be my best and to have fun and enjoy the epic mountains. And I came, I think, 19th. I'm not very good on my own stats, which is a bit weird thing to say, but I came 19th in the downhill. I remember going, this is it, I'm going to come back from this. So I've got great memories of Sochi.
What was that like, as you said, battling leg injuries and coming back and getting to compete at the Olympics?
I mean, it's part and parcel of our sport. You know that if you choose to be a downhill ski racer and you're throwing yourself down the mountain at 80 miles an hour, you will get injured. But in those years, I had more injuries than most. But I realized that the grass wasn't greener. I realized how much I loved skiing, and that I was so lucky and so grateful that I had such a long career. And so I really was like, stubbornly, I'm going to get to Sochi. It's going to be my swan song. I know it, but I'm going to get there. So I think a lot of people wrote me off. So when I got there, it was kind of I've proved you wrong moment, which is always fun in life.
For you, what was that feeling like putting on that first Olympic gear versus putting on that last one in Sochi?
Well, I mean, there's a 16-year time period between them. So I'd evolved massively and matured as an athlete. I'd learnt so much about myself mentally and physically. I think, I look back and I went through some pretty hard injury times, tough times. And I'm really, really proud that I made it to 4 Olympics. And I think you just evolve as an athlete. Like the first Olympic bid, no one can take that away from you. And you never even take the last one you get, even though you've done 4 Olympics in between. You never take them for granted, especially in a sport like skiing, because you can always get injured or you can always miss the cut. And I'm really proud that I persevered and I had the passion to do that.
What does it mean to you to be a 4-time Olympian?
Oh, it's such an honor. And that's a huge chunk of my life. And, I'm a mum now, and I've got to the stage where my 7-year-old, he understands what being an Olympian is. And he's so proud of me. And to hear someone, close to you relive your life in such a proud way is amazing. And I think it never goes away. It's always there. Now we get to write OLY after our name as well. When you're an Olympian in the UK, it's kind of like some people are Danes and Knights, and I'm an OLY. I'm an Ollie. But it's great, and it's something that's opened up so many doors for me, and I'm so grateful for the journey that I had in alpine skiing to bring me so many opportunities now. And now I do loads of keynote speaking around the world about how important it is to have the confidence to take risks and to fail, because essentially I failed. I wanted to win the Olympics and I never got there, but I'm really proud of the fact that I still had that dream, even at the end, that I would compete at that highest level despite all the odds. And it's an amazing feeling, and it's a feeling not many people understand.
How does it feel for you to have that OLY behind your last name and be known as an Olympian?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a similar answer, exactly what I just said. It's it's such an honor. It's the pinnacle of sport, and I'm so lucky to have been able to be healthy in those exact moments.
What was that feeling like for you, getting to live out your Olympic dream, not just once, but 4 times?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that sets me apart from some Olympians who have a shorter career. Maybe it shows how stubborn I am that I went to 4 of them, or that I just kept believing. And I think I'm driven by passion for skiing. I never did it because I thought I'd make money or be famous. And I think having that longevity to my career in those 4 Olympics shows that I was able to ride that roller coaster of highs and lows.
While at the Olympics, what was that moment I made it moment like for you?
I mean, it's electric. It's very hard to describe, but it's everything that you've ever worked for put together in front of you in a 2-minute period of your life where you have complete control over how well you're going to do. And I think that's the most important thing in the Olympics. Is I've had some great runs, but I didn't win. That doesn't mean I'm not proud of them. I did the very best I could do, but other athletes just did better in that very moment. So I think it's really important when you're in that moment is to just think about, we call it control the controllables. Okay, you can only control your performance. You can't dictate others and how they're going to do. And so you've got to enjoy it when you know that you've done your very best, because that's all you can do.
What are some of your favorite memories and moments throughout your Olympic time?
I mean, you never forget that moment you put your first Olympic bib on. I will never forget the moment I put my last hand through the finish of my last Olympics. Those are really, really special. But also, watching your friends achieve their moments of glory. I'm very lucky to have a best friend in Julia Mancuso, who's an American alpine skier. And I was there when she won in Turin. I was there when she podiumed for the other 2 Olympics. So sharing that success with someone who has grafted so hard, it is really up there for me. So it's kind of a selfless thing to say, but it's not always about you. It's about what you can bring to help someone else that you care about. And Julia is an incredible athlete. And I like to say that I kind of supported her to help her get those medals, which is a lovely thing to be able to give back to someone who means so much to you.
What is it like getting to meet your fans and having them ask for your autographs and photos with you?
Oh, what an honor. I mean, I was a massive fan girl when I was younger. So I think that's the way the world goes round, because you get fans, and then now, I'm out of the game and I interview big stars and I'm fans of theirs. And I think it's a really healthy thing to have mentors and athletes as inspiration for everyone. Even it doesn't matter what age you are, just to go out there and you see them putting their heart on the line for sport and living through their disappointment. And I think that's so synonymous with life that I think it's so important to have sports fans around, and they make it in the net.
What was that transition like for you from going from being an athlete to life after sports?
Transitioning is always challenging as an athlete because you're defined by your sport, and I had such a long career in it that I was Chemmy the skier. So when I became Chemmy the non-skier, I was really quite anxious about who I'd be, but I knew that I loved talking and I knew that I loved skiing. So I was very lucky to get a role in television, and I started coaching because I'm very passionate about helping other people perform to the best of their ability. So I was very lucky with my transition because I have passions and I knew where I wanted to go with the sport. But it is a challenging time because you do lose your identity.
Now being a broadcaster, what was that feeling like getting to broadcast the Olympics and getting to go in 2018 to cover it?
Oh, it's amazing being the other side. I think it gives you a real different perspective. And for me, it's really important to not just focus on the medal tables, but to tell the stories of the athletes, to talk about those who are being vulnerable in their disappointment. I mean, Michaela Schifrin was huge for that in the last Olympics, and she gave us so much to talk about, overriding the fact that we all hoped that she would win multiple gold medals in the Olympics. So I think for me as a broadcaster, I just want to tell stories. I want to show people the humans behind the sporting results, because I think that is where the power is, and that will resonate with younger people and help get them into sport more.
Have you been able to take the experience that you've learned throughout your athletic time over to your broadcast side?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm more empathetic to when things go wrong, because I went wrong and I made mistakes a lot during my own career. Obviously, I never know what it's like to win the Olympics, so I get a buzz through watching people I know and people I followed and interviewed actually achieving that moment. I mean, you kind of vicariously live through them. But yeah, I'd like to think that my knowledge especially has helped filter through into broadcasting.
Of course, in your broadcasting career, what are some of your future plans?
Oh, I mean, I love doing the camera runs. They petrify me, but being able to ski down the same mountains I used to race, holding a camera, talking to people, showing people through the eyes, is really empowering. And I love that I can share that passion with people who may never get that opportunity. So that's up there. And to just, I can't wait till Britain. We've got a really healthy young team coming up in alpine skiing, and I'm excited for them to have their moment, and to be able to keep passing the baton on to the future generation, and that the passion for winter sports to keep growing.
What advice would you give those people looking to get started in the sport of alpine skiing?
I mean, obviously I'm biased, but it's the best sport in the world. You make incredible friendships, traveling the world, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, which I think is something that not many people have the opportunity to do. So go for it, enjoy the roller coaster. It's not always going to be easy. You're probably going to get hurt, you're probably going to crash a lot, but it's all worth it. Every sacrifice is worth it.
What advice would you give those first-time Olympians preparing to go to the Olympics for the first time?
Oh, enjoy it. Just be a sponge. Like, take everything in, keep your eyes wide, don't narrow your focus too much, like take it all in, because it's incredibly special.
What advice would you give those multiple time Olympians preparing for their multiples Olympics journey?
I think, if you're returning to the Olympics, you know what to expect. So you've got all of that bank of knowledge and memories of how it's going to be, how different it's going to be. And just zone in, and you've got to keep enjoying it. It's really, even that doesn't mean you can't be determined and focused, but you have to keep enjoying the Olympics, because that's what will help you be your very best.
What advice would you give those Olympians transitioning from being Olympians in the sport to life after the sport?
I think when you're coming towards the end of your career, you've got to open up your eyes to the world around you and what else brings you joy. Find something that brings you passion. You always have the choice on how you redefine yourself and what hat you choose to wear next. And athletes have an incredible value to communities because we're very determined / obsessive, and we work really, really hard. So if you find something you're passionate about elsewhere, you will be good at it.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
I'm Chemmy Ski, so CHEMMYSKI. And yeah, I hope to connect with loads of you.
Thank you again, Chimney, for your interview, and best luck in your future, wherever it may hold you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Chimney, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.